doing?
Good, good, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. I'm
Yeah,
ready to hop in and jump right in. I was feeling nervous and I'm like, just breathe.
it's me. You don't have to
Yeah,
feel nervous.
it's you. Yeah. Um, so I guess to jump right in, I want to confirm my niche and narrow it because I think I have this urge to like flee my niche, which is food, body, movement, relationship, eating disorders, disordered eating, and I can kind of share more about my state, like my statement that I share with referrals. But I'm also thinking it's more of kind of a marketing problem that I'm like
Okay.
not maybe being willing to be visible and seen and found in a way. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that you changed from eating disorders to something different.
Hmm.
I've been watching some of the one-to-ones and trying to like glean some information there to kind of narrow focus of our time together.
Yeah.
Um, so I like do think my niche is like life-giving, but
Hmm.
also like the stuff that comes after the eating disorder or the food and body work is like kind of an underlying river, but the other life stressors that were impacting people.
Hmm.
And so I would say the people I work with are women in historically or currently male-dominated fields, so tech and
Hmm.
medicine,
Hmm.
um, work on their relationship with food and body and find their place and like take up more space in a way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, that's juicy. That's
Yeah.
juicy.
Too
Um,
much. Yeah.
I don't know that it's too much.
Okay.
No, I think it's very specific, which in niches is great.
Okay.
So it's looking at like how do you get in with them? Because so
Mm,
there are fewer women in tech. I think
mhm.
medicine is shifting to more women than men over time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are fewer women in tech, women in medicine. How many of them are struggling with food and body? How do they name that? Like what do they call it?
Mm,
Like they might not be calling it eating disorders or disordered eating or problems with food and
okay.
body.
Hmm.
Are they just getting on a GLP-1 to like quote unquote solve the problem?
Yes. And then I'm like, do they even want my support because that's happening? So I think I have a fear that like I'm not going to have people wanting this type of support because they're like hopping on a GLP-1, or I have folks who are on a GLP-1 and we're sort of like navigating that together.
Yeah. Because I think that for people who have disordered eating or an eating disorder specifically, that
Hmm.
hop on a GLP-1,
Hmm.
like even though I'm not working with eating disorders so much anymore, I'm still like tapped in.
Yeah.
And and I also know how eating disorders work. And like just because you lose weight doesn't make the problem that caused the eating disorder go away, right? It's
No.
just that your primary symptom may be sated for now.
Yeah.
And the body dysmorphia can absolutely continue.
Right.
So I think it comes down to like your one ideal client and what is her experience? She's in this male-dominated field, so she's kind of like in a powerful position, but disempowered within that realm, right?
Hmm.
Um, I don't know why I need to do like hand motions and make
I
no
do it
sense.
too. I love it.
So she's in this circumstance, right?
Uh-huh.
Where maybe she's not seen or listened to or heard as much as some of her male
Mm,
counterparts.
mm,
And as women, there is just so much pressure, no matter what we do for a living, to be considered attractive.
mm, hmm.
And that there is power in being attractive.
Mm, yeah.
And so they're disempowered in some ways in work while having powerful positions. They're disempowered
Yes.
and seeking power
Hmm.
through whatever means they can, like being more attractive, being over competent, being over responsible, like
Mm,
working twice as hard.
mm. Yes.
So the
Okay.
GLP-1 might take some pounds off and they're still not feeling good enough.
Right. Like that continues. Like that is not
Yeah,
the solution, right? Okay.
right.
Yeah. I think I fear I'm like, oh, I know that like this is maybe not going to be helpful in the long run. So I'm like trying to build space to be like, all right, they're going to be happening. How do we maybe get to the point where they see that that's not their solution if they would want it or not? But anyway, I digress into that piece a little bit.
Yeah. And I mean, I
Okay.
think we also, because you and I come from a certain way of thinking about food and body, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like the eating disorder world can be pretty dogmatic.
Yes.
And I think as I spend less time with the eating disorder dogma and
Hmm.
more time with people who just like don't think like that at all,
Hmm.
um, they're unlikely to get off their GLP-1 and be like, you know what, it's fine. Like I'm gonna accept my body exactly as it is. Like they're not likely to do that
No.
if the GLP-1 is getting them the results that they want. They're just going to be like, well, yeah, I look much better to myself and maybe to others, and I'm still really feeling powerless. So you
Mm.
ultimately do get to work with the underneath stuff. I feel like
Yes.
a bad eating disorder therapist saying, like,
Yes. I struggle with that. I'm like, I feel like a bad eating disorder therapist when I'm like, well, this is happening, but
yeah, it's like the at some point they reach whatever goal, and if it doesn't become like a scary, constantly slipping down goal, in like anorexia land, then like they hit some sort of weight goal that there is increased confidence, and it is okay for us to acknowledge that there is increased confidence,
Mhm.
and they're still not feeling good enough.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think 90% or more of the women I've worked with throughout my 20 plus years as a therapist, whether
Hmm.
they have an eating disorder or not, we're all just trying to fucking feel good enough.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
it is this
Hmm.
insidious,
Hmm.
what do I need to do? Like if it was a therapist marketing a practice, it's like you're doing 37 things to market a practice instead of five, right? Trying to be
Hmm.
good enough, trying so hard.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So I'm kind of getting the vibe that maybe I might need to like make these pieces louder and like the food body eating disorder because I feel like my website is like anxiety and eating disorders and food and body relationship and movement. And maybe I need to like bring this other stuff more forward. Is that?
Potentially. I mean, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think bring this stuff forward while keeping the pressure of looking a particular way as a woman
Okay.
and try to be respected and to like try to maintain confidence
Mm.
and that can lead to body image issues. And even if you're at the weight that you always wanted to be at, or if you're struggling,
Mm.
like if you're struggling to get there, like you can use words like struggling to get there because
Hmm.
that's a dog whistle to folks with disordered eating, right? Like, yeah, I'm struggling to get there. I've been
Hmm.
trying my whole life to be that weight. Um, so keeping it in the conversation, but maybe the food body relationship might be just even saying that might be over pathologizing to
Yeah.
them because they're
Okay.
like, no, the problem is I just need to lose weight.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And because these are two groups where they usually have the funds, I
Yeah.
think many of them are getting on GLP-1s. You could even mention GLP-1s. That could even be a drop down of like,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I was also like because I think you were I don't know I saw you mention like Felisa, your friend,
Mhm.
and so I went on their website and I was like, oh, I see. There's like these drop downs with these like specifics because a part of me was like, but I don't want to like not have something on my website about these people.
Mhm.
Um, so I was curious of like having some of those drop downs in that way, which I don't have yet, to be like, and I also do this, but like this is my primary.
Mhm.
Any thoughts against or for that structure?
I think as long as what you want to put in there is relates to your ideal client.
Okay.
So like if your homepage were to be kind of like a table of contents, I
Hmm.
just had like the best. I was hanging out with Kat Love on
Mm.
Zoom. We were just doing a catch up and
Mm.
got to talking about website. And I was like, I hate my new website I built. I don't know why. And they're like, well, let me look at it. And I was like, okay.
Sure.
So one of the things that I really liked about how Kat explained it is like think about your homepage as kind of a table of contents almost.
Okay.
So thinking about like if you were to talk about who you like the different people that you're working with within your niche, but like
Hmm.
if they have like three different things they're struggling with or four different pieces that they're like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Hmm.
So like you could, and then those are going to link up to specialty pages.
Okay.
Yeah. So you could have women in male dominated fields.
Hmm.
You could have something around however they would frame like trying to have some power, trying to be good enough, or that kind of thing.
Hmm.
You could have something about confidence and food and body, or confidence and body image, or you can kind of play with the three or four main tenets of what
Okay.
your ideal client is like. I'm coming to therapy for this.
Hmm. Hmm.
So your
Yes.
niche, like, yeah, like anxiety, for instance, right? Like your people have anxiety. Do they call it anxiety? Do they call it
Hmm.
constant worry? Do they call it
Hmm.
um insomnia? Like thinking about how they like we come in and we call it anxiety because we understand that diagnosis so well, right? So
Yes, totally.
yeah,
Yes.
not our conceptualization, but their experience, what they tell their best friend they're struggling with.
Yeah. I really need to get out of my like sort of clinician head because I'm just like blah 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 blah. This is like I'm almost like referral speaking, I think, in
Hmm.
my website, and I want to probably shift that.
Hmm.
Um, okay, this is sort of a left field. I have some like just specific kind of questions, which will pour back into what we were just talking about. How do you feel about banners? Sometimes I feel like banners can feel stressful to me and sort of like yelling at people and a little like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on their size. Yeah.
Okay.
And are we talking about a like a ticker tape one that goes across?
Yeah, that's just like, hey, I have two openings, or I have, I don't know. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on how they're done,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like I've seen some where I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm on some like Sunday, Sunday, Sunday kind of a thing, right? Like it's
Times
a
Square,
weird
New
vibe.
York.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't need all the stimulation, but I think
Okay.
if it's like a subtle
Settle.
and it matches the branding, and if
Okay.
it's like if it's moving, it's a ticker tape. Like all the colors are making sense with all the colors on your website. Because if it's
Okay.
moving, you don't need to make it brighter for it to stand out and things like that. Um,
Mm.
I think it can be a good place to say like I have two spots available, or those kinds of things.
Okay. Great. That's helpful. Um, I use a lot of like act and values work and
Mhm.
metaphor, and I feel like I am like passionate about it, and I kind of like smuggle it in without even like naming what those things are. I have this fear that it's not relevant in like marketing wise or networking wise and like clinical wise because there's so much sort of like somatic IFS, like just different
Hmm.
approaches. And I
Yeah.
know, so I guess I'm like, does ACT still feel relevant
Hmm.
to focus on?
Clinically or marketing wise.
Both.
So I'm a fellow ACT therapist, love ACT.
Yeah.
Um, People aren't looking for ACT the way they're looking for IFS. And it
No.
doesn't mean that ACT isn't effective also.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's just not as, when people are looking for modalities, they tend to be EMDR, IFS,
Mhm.
sometimes psychoanalysis, depending on where you are.
Mm.
But most people don't care. But the modality, they don't even know that there are different modalities, right? They just think we all do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I think it's thinking about your ideal client, right?
Okay.
If they're physicians, they've probably had CBT shoved down their throat, right?
Yeah.
Of like, this is the evidence-based practice, right?
Yes.
Um, so you can not have anything on your website and allow them to ask. You
Mhm.
can talk about how you work, like in your about me. You can say like as
Mhm.
an ACT therapist, and you can
Mhm.
say ACT is like kind of a new generation of CBT. It's
Mm.
evidence-based, blah, blah, blah. Um, but you don't have to go deep into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Um, okay. And then I was thinking about really minimally for my marketing. I feel overwhelmed with the idea of social media, but I do feel potentially open to like ideal client content on YouTube, like a little bit of a couple things here and there. Do you feel like that is a good place for energy use and how, like, any resources for coping with that sort of visibility or like what
Mhm.
might show up there?
Yeah. So YouTube, um, is a vast expanse.
Okay.
So a
Okay.
couple things here and there are not likely to be found.
Okay.
I would use YouTube if you just want to do a couple things here and there. I might
Mhm.
use YouTube to host videos that you then place on your website.
Okay.
But it's unlikely to be a driver to your website
Okay.
unless you are very consistently posting like every week and you're doing a
Mhm.
mix of shorts versus long form.
Okay.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
Nope. Not gonna.
you're like, and
Not.
done.
And that's a great answer. Perfect. Okay. Gosh, what are, I feel like I'm getting, oh, I feel like the two things that were coming into my mind is like systems and processes for networking. And I loved your feedback about humans first in one of your one-on-ones and like relationally. And then I'm also like, um, organizing it, organizing
Hmm?
like the resource for organizing like
Yeah.
those folks and remembering them. Like I have a little book with cards, but I'm just like,
Mhm.
any thoughts on
I'm a
organizing them?
spreadsheet girl.
Spreadsheet.
So like if I have networked with you, you are on my spreadsheet. And it might have some notes about what we talked about or somebody we have in common to help jog my memory.
Okay.
And it might
Okay.
have your website so I can click on it and see your face. Um, and then from there, usually, like, let's say I grab coffee with somebody today.
Hmm.
Well, not with the holidays because we're recording this in December, but normally I would put in a thing to follow up in a month in my calendar. So I wouldn't
Okay.
do it in my, like, once I don't do the planning for when next anywhere except my calendar. And then when I see like, oh, contact Jane Doe on, the 10th of January,
Mhm.
then I'm going to be like, oh gosh, which one's Jane Doe? If I've been networking a lot, that's okay.
Link to the spreadsheet.
Exactly. And so then I'm
Okay.
like, okay, there's Jane that, oh yeah, we talked about like her in-laws were going to be staying with her for the holidays. So I can check in and be like, hey Jane, I was just thinking about you because you were on my
Mm.
calendar. But wondering how it went with your in-laws. I'd love to
Mm.
grab coffee again sometime in the next month or so. Let me know what your availability is. And that
Okay.
follow up with folks that's for people who are likely to refer to you that
Hmm.
you really liked, that it was easy to
Yeah.
be with. We do not need to be trying to force things with people that it felt awkward.
Mhm.
And we also, as much as we like them, it might not make a lot of sense for us to keep following up with people that we liked who are also still filling their practice and aren't going to refer to us, depending on
Mhm.
niche.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that makes sense. And then my little human part is like, oh, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, still follow up with them like
Yes,
personally, but not
yes.
not
No,
necessarily counting it as a networking,
that
right?
makes
Like if you haven't made a friend, make a friend. And if that friend is networking to you, you've got a friend and a referral partner that you then can count as networking. Yeah.
yes, yes, that makes sense. Um, okay, then with that, like top three other providers that are actually, and maybe there's even resources because I think I logged back into like the abundance like website or like the portal, and I was like, all this stuff. I'm gonna look at all this stuff. And so if there's like resources or things to be pointing me towards to just
Uh-huh.
keep building on around like best practices for marketing to like psych providers, dietitians, NDs, couple therapists, functional medicine, like who would you prioritize first? And then what are the go-to like tools for
Hmm.
connecting with them?
Yeah, so it's different for each of those groups. So
Yeah.
I would think about like who you prioritize is who does your ideal client go to first? So like the docs are less likely to go to a doc, interestingly, right?
Yeah, they just talk to each
Um,
other.
yeah, doctors are terrible patients. It's like a rule.
Yeah.
Not for us,
Mhm.
but for each other.
Mhm.
So like where are they going to manage their stress? Do they have a weekly massage? Um, are
Mm.
they um is could you get in on a CME, like continuing
Mm.
medical education? Could you present on like specific to like women physicians, like the different pressures for women physicians? If you like to public speak, if you that makes you want to break out in hives, don't worry about it. Um, Yeah, so just thinking about where do they go first? If they might be going to a dietitian because doctors are not trained in nutrition except for maybe one class during med school, and the rest they're
Mhm.
just as brainwashed as the rest of us.
Yeah.
And so, getting in with dietitians and letting them know. Um,
Mhm.
your women in tech are more likely to go to the doctor. How are they showing, like, which doctor are they showing up to? Are they going to psychiatrists? Or I think
Mhm.
I will say, like, a lot of doctors will go to psychiatrists instead of
Mhm.
like their PCP for meds, even if they're just on an
Mm.
SSRI. So
Mhm.
psychiatrists can be a good get. And depending on the structure of the practice, like if it's a hospital-owned practice, they're likely to be referring in-house. So I
Internally.
wouldn't waste your
Mhm.
time. But the private practices, psychiatrists are so much busier than we are. They see more
Mhm.
people. There's never enough of them in any city. And so they might not be able to like go to lunch with you in the way a therapist might. But you could
Yeah.
say, hey, I would love to, especially if there's somebody who's currently prescribing for any of your clients.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to touch base over lunch. I can bring lunch to your office um, and talk about some of these clients and like who you like referral wise so that I can send you those people.
Mhm.
And that can be an N with a prescriber. And I'm saying psychiatrist, but it could also be
Fair. Yeah.
PAs or NPs or like whoever's a prescriber.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then I think about like, does your ideal client, like I'm thinking about your woman in tech, for instance, like what's happening psychosomatically for her? Is she having stomach issues because of anxiety? Because like don't we all? So
Mhm.
like if she's having stomach issues, is she going to her PCP? Is that getting escalated to a GI doc? Does it make sense? GI docs are almost always in a hospital system, but does it
Yeah.
make sense to try to connect anyway?
Okay.
Even just on like LinkedIn or something like that.
Right.
Um,
Uh-huh. So, what about like functional medicine folks? Because I feel like they're going to get a GLP-1 and they're maybe starting there.
yes, I think that's a
Aesthetic
great.
places.
hmm Aesthetic places, yeah. Um, functional
Okay.
medicine, yeah. Um, the people who like the docs I feel like the docs and the people in tech have so much in common and also so much different when it comes to referral sources, which is great
Yeah.
because it's double the referral sources.
Okay.
That's the way to look at that.
Okay.
Just more work for you. Um, but they are going to have to go see somebody else to prescribe the GLP-1 for them because usually it's not super kosher to prescribe your own meds. Um,
Right.
and they're less likely to go to the aesthetic places because they kind of turn their nose up at them usually.
That's true. So,
Um,
like not med. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they might go to their PCP for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be like, what if you did a talk at doctor's offices about GLP-1 meds and um like kind of the underlying anxiety maybe and like how you will likely see an increase in confidence in your, in your I almost said students, in your patients.
Mm.
And there's this underlying thing that food was solving that is not like they thought it was about the food noise, and the food noise is now tamped down. but
Mm-hmm.
the anxiety that is actually like what was driving much of the food noise is still there.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
could do a talk for like, I mean, you could, any doctor's office is prescribing them right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Totally. I think I get hung up on diet, like, can I do that? Is this more of a dietitian role? Like, do I need to know more than I know to do that? But I think the way you framed it is kind of helping me.
yeah, because you don't need to tell them about the processes and like blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Like you need to talk about the feelings
Okay.
because all the feelings stay the same or worsen because now they don't have a tool to like soothe themselves.
Yeah, kind of like it's so like I feel like I'm hearing you describe it so similar to when there's a certain place in recovery where like I'm not using this as much anymore, but now all the shit I was dealing with is like
Yes.
still there and like what the heck?
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And not
Okay.
everybody, this is another thing too, not everybody on a GLP-1 um, had food and body issues, right?
No,
And so
no,
that's
no.
another thing to talk about is like, what are the characteristics of the person whose
Mhm.
anxiety is likely to increase on a GLP-1?
Mm.
Um, so that they're not, because I think sometimes folks get defensive of like these are legitimate medications. I'm not
Yes.
just prescribing this to like women who want to be hotter, you
Yeah.
know? And maybe I
Yes. Yeah.
am prescribing this for women who want to be hotter too. But
Sure. Yeah.
um yeah, so for doctors who see like obesity as a disease that they are working with this patient to cure,
Mm.
like really
Mhm.
being willing to see that from their perspective and meet
Mhm.
them where they're at without necessarily
Mm.
agreeing with that.
Yeah.
Um, but like how can you, if that's the model they're working in and the patient is working in, how do you then help treat that anxiety?
Mm. Like that's what my presentation would be.
Potentially. Yeah, like this is what I do. Here's what to
Okay.
look for as a prescriber. Here are
Hmm.
the people most likely to struggle more. Like their confidence will go up, so they'll have this bump of
Hmm.
like, good feelings once they start getting the results that they're seeking.
Hmm.
And, that part of recovery, right? They're all that underlying
Hmm.
stuff is now laid bare.
Yeah.
And while they might have some increased confidence, they've also got like increased anxiety. So helping
Right.
differentiate who like how they might present in session, how
Mm.
they or not in session in the doctor's office. Like
Yeah.
have you been prescribing them an SSRI? What is
Mm.
their like what have their complaints been before about like I'm just super stressed out or like what have you maybe thought in the back of your mind like this may be psychosomatic. So those kinds
Mm.
of things.
Okay. Okay. And like there are people out there. There are people out there who want this type of support. I might just need
Yes.
to say it differently because I think I'm like with the slowing down, the less reaching out, I'm like, do I need to abandon ship and focus on something completely different? And I think I just
No.
need to like,
Yeah. Just reground.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Awesome. It's
Okay.
so good to see
So good to
you.
see you too. Thank you so very much. I appreciate everything you had to share. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I'll see you later then.
Awesome. See ya. Bye.
Bye.